To disassemble and reassemble your lower receiver, you will need the following items: an armorer's tool, and a small, flat blade screwdriver. Armorer's tip: use a roll of utility tape to support the weapon while you work. Beginning with the locking block pin, push the pin out from the left side of the weapon, so it exits from the right side. Next, remove the trigger mechanism housing pin, again starting from the left side of the weapon. Finally, position the pin punch on top of the trigger pin. With your other hand, move the slide stop lever back and forth until it is aligned with the trigger pin, then push the pin out. Now, the slide stop lever can be removed. Use the pin punch to carefully loosen the locking block. Then use your fingers to remove it from the frame. You are now ready to remove the trigger assembly. Note, you may also choose to remove the magazine catch and the slide lock lever. At this time, follow the links shown below for these procedures. To continue with the lower receiver disassembly, use the pin punch to loosen the trigger mechanism housing by gently lifting up the ejector. Then, grip the ejector and remove the entire trigger assembly. Next, swing the cruciform end of the trigger bar away from the trigger mechanism housing and lift it out. Note, the trigger spring is attached in an S orientation, viewed from the right side of the firearm. Remove the trigger spring from the trigger bar first as shown, and then from the trigger mechanism housing. You are now ready to remove the connector. For the pin punch slot models in current production, press out the connector using the pin punch slot as shown. For models without the pin punch slot, use a small, flat-bladed screwdriver as follows. Insert the screwdriver under the free end of the connector, being careful not to lift it upward. Slide the screwdriver sideways until it reaches the point where the connector enters the housing. Then twist the screwdriver and lift out the connector. To reassemble your lower receiver, proceed as follows. First, insert the connector into its slot in the trigger mechanism housing, then seat it firmly with the pin punch on your armorer's tool. The trigger mechanism housing is now ready for reinstallation. Note, the trigger spring is attached in an S orientation, viewed from the right side of the firearm. It must be reinstalled in this orientation. Attach the trigger spring to the trigger mechanism housing first. Then attach it to the trigger bar as shown. Swing the trigger end of the trigger bar to align it with the trigger mechanism housing. The radius at the rearward end of the trigger bar must be positioned correctly on the connector as shown. Also, be certain the trigger spring is properly aligned with the trigger bar. If it is twisted and jammed against the trigger mechanism housing, the trigger will not operate correctly. Use the small, flat blade screwdriver to carefully move the end of the trigger spring back into proper alignment with the trigger bar. Now, install the complete trigger assembly into the receiver, with the trigger end first. Then, press the locking block into position. Install the locking block pin first. Next, install the trigger pin and slide stop lever as shown, with the slide stop lever spring under the locking block pin. Be sure the first groove in the trigger pin is aligned with the slide stop lever. Finally, install the trigger mechanism housing pin. With all pins properly installed, test the assembly by using your thumb to move the slide stop lever upward, and let it snap back into position. An audible click should be heard, indicating the slide stop lever spring is positioned correctly, under the locking block pin. The assembly is now complete. To learn more about this or other products, chat live with our experts now.